And it is one of those things where some people grow into being a star. You know, when you see Chris Martin footage of him at the Falcon, you don't think he's going to end up marrying a Hollywood actress. You just think, oh, he looks a bit like a student. Ditto for someone like Keane. You know, you don't think, oh, he's going to sell 2 million records. You think, oh, bless. I bet he's going to have a nice cardigan for Christmas from his mum. But with Brian Molko, you didn't think, oh, he looks like a student, or, oh, he's going to get a nice cardigan from his mum. You just thought, wow, this guy's really short, but this guy's going to be a superstar. He just oozed greatness.
I think, casting my mind back to the rehearsal sessions at Sound Advice, they were paying, because they rehearsed in daytimes, because most of the bands we had here had to work to pay for the time in the rehearsals, and I think they were paying about £25–30 a session. Most bands that rehearse in the daytimes are very serious about it, because they've taken the chance. They're not working. They've got a flexible, part-time job or something to enable them to progress their goal in life, really.
With rehearsals going well and a name change to Placebo after a drug which cannot work but you think makes you feel better, came the task of laying down a demo.
I think Placebo had been here for about 8 months, somewhere around there, and I remember Brian coming up to me one day and said, Alan, we need to get a demo down. So I remember cutting a deal with them, and I think we did the whole 12-hour session through the night from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m, including all the tapes and stuff, and I think it was somewhere in the region of about £100 at the time. As far as the tracks that were recorded here, I believe they did about a 3 to 4 track EP, and definitely they recorded a version of Nancy Boy here. Yeah, as far as the recording process went, I think it was laid down in pretty much like 2 or 3 takes, guide vocal, drums, bass and guitar. We just had to get the mics and capture that moment, really. Just capturing the performance, which is very important. Sometimes you can get a bit too technical and doing everything too isolated and separated, and it really doesn't gel together at the end of the day. But the way they recorded, very raw, it just captured the moment with the band.
Placebo gigged relentlessly, and although they were small venues, they were proving to be a hit.
And I remember, seeing them on a couple of occasions, and although there was only a very few people there, they were all facing the stage. They were all looking at it, going, "Yeah, this is really good," and they went down really well.
Placebo signed their first management deal with Bad Moon in 1994.
And it was no surprise after several months that Brian came in to me and said, "Alan, now we've got a management company now who are going to take us on, and so they'll be paying for our rehearsals from now on," which was they were really excited about, and saved them a few quid.
Just after the demo was recorded in '94, Steve had to leave Placebo. Reed had been offered the support slot on Nick Cave's Let Love In tour, and it was to Breed, his band of 8 years, that he owed his loyalties. Robert Schultzberg, a friend of Stefan's and fellow Swede, was drafted in to replace Steve in time for the band's first signed gig on the cramped stage at London's Rock Garden in January 1995.
I'm in Covent Garden, in the Rock Garden, where Placebo played their first signed gig on a Thursday, actually, when it rained. And it's really small in here, and so you can't believe that Placebo ever played on a stage this size, because it's like, God, it's like someone's living room.
Even at that first gig, it was clear that Placebo stood apart from the Oasis and Blur wannabe bands that dominated the music scene. Placebo were making an impact.
Within 2 or 3 gigs, Placebo were kind of like being talked about everywhere across London town.
'95 saw the auspicious debut release of Bruise Pristine, combining raw, naked sexual aggression with an immediacy which earned it masses of radio airplay and a hit on the indie charts.
Placebo just were an anachronism, really, because they turned up completely out of the blue, and it was just a different perspective, because Brian and Stefan were both sort of from Europe. It meant they weren't so concerned about the NME or what Creation Records were signing or anything like that. They came up with their own sort of vision. I think we decided to release a single by Placebo pretty much before they played. After I'd shaken his hand, really, it was kind of like, yeah, we'll do a single with you. You know, I mean, you'd have to go on stage and be quite literally the worst band I've ever seen in my entire life to put me off. And then we sort of went with the flow. We agreed to do a single, and the way, again, their charm meant that you just agree to everything they said. You know, normally you do a 7-inch single, and obviously it belongs to one band, and so they'd have the A side and the B side. But in this case, Placebo they said, we'll give you Bruce Pristine, but on the B side we want our mates to have a song on there, and their mates were called Soup. And we went, yeah, all right. It didn't occur to us to go, what are you talking about? Who are Soup? In Fierce Panda's case, you know, the budgets are so restricted and small that, you know, the bands have barely got enough time to actually record and mix the songs that we want them to do without me going down there and taking down bottles of champagne and stuff like that and hanging out, man. But they were very efficient. That was the key to it. It was kind of, you know, 2 days in and out, bish bosh, and then a DAT turned up and away we went. I think in terms of the track that we actually wanted to put out, there was one of any 5 really. Nancy Boy was in the set already. The 36 Degrees song was in the set already, and it was just a question of whatever they wanted really. They said, we want to record this, we gave them a bit of money and off they went. The one thing we always said to bands at that stage was, give us one of your best songs, because you never know what might happen tomorrow. You could get run over by a bus, or you could end up re-recording the song for EMI or Virgin or something like that in 6 months' time in a really swanky studio. And luckily, it was the latter that actually happened, rather than number 13 ploughing into Placebo at a bus stop on Oxford Street. Enduring image, isn't it? The management did a brilliant thing, which was they booked him a gig at Brixton Academy. And then you actually got there, and it turns out the gig was in the foyer of Brixton Academy, but it just looked fantastic on the flyers. And we sort of followed them around as all their little gigs. You know, did the Water Rats and the Barfly and all the little venues, and we probably worked with them for about 3 months. And Bruce Springsteen came out, and it got on the radio, and then they went off and signed to Virgin, and it was just a very sort of simple process, really.
I think we kind of got to know Brian particularly, or I got to know Brian particularly, and just sort of asked whether he fancied doing a single after Fierce Panda. So we did, and sort of arranged the deal and the contract and the studio and all those sort of grown-up bits. You know, if you're a record label, you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince. One of the things about Brian is he stood out as being, you know, an immensely articulate, driven individual. It was a very sort of simple decision, really, because there certainly wasn't a lot of money in it from either my point of view or his point of view. But so, well, if you fancy doing it, let's give it a go. Mainly driven more, I think, by a feeling that actually this guy had a handle on what he wanted to do.
The appeal of Come Home, I think basically what that is that it's got this kind of sexual energy to it, that because it's so fast. I mean, they played it on the radio at like half speed because of Brian's voice being so high and it being so fast, and it was just, it kind of grabs you. It punches it out and it says, you know, I am here. This, you know, you are going to listen to me, kind of thing. And it's like you have to. It draws you in, and it's just the emotion that it shows as well. The sort of, we have to have everything and we have to have it right now. And I think that did appeal to a lot of people, and it appealed to me.
The recording, when we got to record the single, I mean, the budget was non-existent, and I managed to blag, I think, a couple of days at a studio in South London called Blackwing, and managed to get a mate of mine to produce it, a guy called Paul Tippler. By the time we had it done, we then went to master the record, that you go to a cutting suite, and both Brian and Stefan came. And I think it was the first time that they had been into a mastering suite. And we did it on vinyl and CD. And when you cut vinyl, you can also get